AI is transforming customer service. It's real and it works. And with Finn, we've built the #1 AI agent for customer service. We're seeing lots of cases where it's solving up to 90% of real queries for real businesses. This includes the real-world complex stuff like issuing a refund or cancelling an order. And we also see it when Finn goes up against competitors. It's top of all the performance benchmarks, top of the G2 leaderboard, and if you're not happy, we'll refund you up to $1 million, which I think says it all. Check it out for yourself at fin.ai.
Welcome back to another episode of Scary, a Paranormal podcast. Before we get into this week's episode, I want to give a special shout out to our Patreon subscribers. Judy Williams, Louise Harvey, Jordan Glennie, Gary Steens, Bang On Style, Nicola Mapperson, Katrina Kinsella, Tawny Ahumada Squire, Kathy Bendixson, James Crean, C. Whiteman, Jasmine Monty, Alexa Burdick, Andy Burdick, Gerald Rubeck, Megan Croswell, Josh Stone, Trevor Murray, Hayley Meyer, Manda, Lucy Sparrow, Octavia, Heather Anderson, and Famie Williams. Thank you so much for signing up to the Patreon. If this is something that you are interested in, you can find the link for the Patreon in this episode's show notes, where you will get access to exclusive scary episodes and bonus content. Now, let's get into today's episode. I've worked security gigs for over 10 years. Within that time, I've seen my fair share of break-ins, teenagers trying to get a thrill, even some raccoons thinking that they own the place. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the Elmwood building night shift. Before I took on this night shift, I had heard a few local stories, you know. A couple of weeks after I started, I overheard my first whisper in the break room about shadows that move on their own. Voices in empty rooms, that kind of stuff. But I chalked it up to tales people tell the new guy. You know, like haze the fresh meat, see how scared they can get them. But the pay was solid and I'd done my fair share of night shifts. So if these rumours were true, how bad could it be? My first few weeks at Elmwood was pretty standard. I'd clock in, grab my coffee, do my first round. But one night, things were a little bit different. It started like any other. As I said, clock in, grab my coffee, start my round. The place was an old office building, 5 stories high, all but abandoned save for a few businesses on the first floor. It wasn't until just after 2 a.m. that things got weird. So I'm making my rounds on the 5th floor. As I'm walking down one of the corridors, I start to hear this humming. Like the kind of humming you'd hear from a person. It sounded soft, almost comforting, but also completely out of place. My job is to investigate weird things. So I followed the sound and found myself standing in front of an office door with the number 413 on it. This door is ajar, and I now realise that the humming is coming from inside this room. I push the door open, expecting to find some teenagers, but it's completely empty. Except for an office chair which is in the middle of the room on its own. There's no other furniture in there. And the humming, it's gone. It freaked me out because those corridors are usually silent. All you ever hear is your footsteps. But maybe this time it's echoing from somewhere else. Right. Nonetheless, I looked around that room, made sure that there was nobody hiding in there, or that there wasn't some other door that led off it that I couldn't immediately see. These offices were usually carbon copies of the next, but then there might be an odd one that'd have an interconnecting door or a weird little section that you wouldn't be expecting. But there's nobody there. As I turn to leave, this chair starts rocking on its own. At first slowly back and forth, and then violent. And I got out of there as fast as I could. I made my way to the ground floor and tried to calm myself. I'm not ashamed to say it. Drank some water by the cooler. And that's when the elevator dings. Nobody's called it. Nobody's there. I'm the only person in this building. The doors close, and I watch the elevator go to the 5th floor. Nothing else happened that night. And the next day I opened up to one of the co-workers. He'd been there for a while and said, "Oh yeah, I've heard of stuff. I've heard of things happening before." That was it. Part of you thinks, did everybody just have a laugh at my expense? that I'll find out about in a couple of days. But there was no big reveal. The following few shifts I was completely on edge, but nothing happened. It was back to normal. A couple of weeks later, I had my second weird experience in Elmwood. I was in the building alone. It was just after 3 a.m. I had been around the building a few times and was drinking some coffee on the ground floor when the elevator doors opened by themselves. I hadn't called it, there was nobody else there. I remember looking inside the elevator and there was nobody there. And then the doors close and I watched on the digital display this elevator go to the 5th floor. Very strange. I was freaked out, but again, it's my job to investigate these things. I can't not go to the 5th floor. What am I going to say? I didn't want to go, I was afraid. I took the stairwell and I remember the moment I opened the door onto the hallway on the 5th floor, I couldn't believe the difference in temperature. It was ice cold. It was like somebody had left a window open in the middle of winter. This floor was completely different in temperature to the other floors. And what made things even weirder was I had been on the 5th floor a few times that night. And now all of a sudden it was ice cold. I remember seeing a really faint glow at the end of the corridor coming from one of the offices. So I went to investigate. It was the type of glow that your smartphone gives off. Again, I thought maybe there was teenagers in the building hiding. I was probably going to be the star of some TikTok prank. When I got to the office where this glow was emanating from, it just disappeared. There was no source of light anywhere to be found. The office had a desk, a chair. There wasn't even any equipment in that room. I couldn't find where this light source had even potentially come from. Was it a security light that was faulty? There was no security lights in there. I took a look around, made sure that there was absolutely nobody in the room, and went to leave. Just as I was about to close the door, I heard a voice, very clear, say,
"You shouldn't be here, Carl.
of my eye, I see this shadow dart past and continue down the hallway and then just faded into the blackness. I knew immediately that this was not a person. The shadow passed right in front of me and it was transparent in a way. It was not like a physical thing. I made a beeline for the exit, went down the stairwell, did not look back, and stayed on the ground floor for the rest of the night until the next guy came to take over my shift. The next morning, I quit the job, told the boss everything. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "The 5th floor?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're not the first one. That's why we can't keep anybody on the night shift." He went on to tell me that a few years ago there was a woman who used to work late on the 5th floor and she mysteriously disappeared. They never found her. And the 5th floor, that's where the building's original security office was, way back in the day. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It sent a shiver down my spine. This woman had left the office and basically disappeared into thin air. Thank you to Carl for sending in his paranormal encounter. If you have your own paranormal encounter that you would like me to narrate on the show, you can send it to scaryaparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to this episode, and if you enjoyed the show, be sure to tell a friend and leave a review if possible. Join me next time for another episode of Scary.